So glad you can join us. Here's what we have for you this Tuesday. The Prime Minister's frank message about the changing world order.
Middle powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu.
How Mark Carney is calling on other nations to push back.
How far are you willing to go to acquire Greenland?
You'll find out.
Not backing down. Donald Trump taunts an anxious world.
Everybody just wants security, however they can find it.
Plus, taking stock of the gold rush spurred by all that global uncertainty.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
Great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination.
Very strong words from Canada's Prime Minister today, addressing leaders at the World Economic Forum in Davos without mentioning the U.S. President. Mark Carney also said the rules-based world order is fading and we, the countries, must adapt. And he reaffirmed Canada's support for Greenland. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver is in Davos with more on Mark Carney's remarks, which triggered an audible reaction of support from the room. Hi, Annie.
Sandy, the Prime Minister says the world order is not transitioning, it's rupturing. And he called on middle powers like Canada to do things differently. And while Mark Carney did not specifically call out Donald Trump or the United States, the message was clear. Nestled in the usually calm mountains of the ski town Davos, a chaotic meeting of hundreds of politicians and top business leaders at the World Economic Forum that this year Prime Minister Mark Carney used to deliver a frank message about the future.
The old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy. But we believe that from the fracture, we can build something bigger, better, stronger, more just.
Carney declared the U.S.-led world order dead and said countries must turn inward now that it's clear integration can lead to subordination.
Call it what it is, a system of intensifying great power rivalry where the most powerful pursue their interests using economic integration as coercion.
Withstanding those economic shocks, the Prime Minister said will require like-minded countries to pivot, to work together to hedge uncertainty. While Trump's name was never mentioned, Carney did call on middle powers like Canada to push back against domination by great powers, using tariffs as leverage and supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited.
In a world of great power rivalry, the countries in between have a choice. Compete with each other for favor, or to combine to create a third path with impact.
The message receiving what organizers described as a rare standing ovation at a summit where geopolitics and the future of Greenland is looming large.
Our commitment to NATO's Article 5 is unwavering. Canada strongly opposes tariffs over Greenland and calls for focused talks to achieve our shared objectives of security and prosperity in the Arctic.
Carney may get a chance to raise his concerns directly to the U.S. president tomorrow. Though Canada and the United States are not scheduled to meet right now, the two will be in Davos at the same time. Sandy.
Annie in Davos. All right, let's bring in CTV's chief political correspondent, Vashi Kapelas. Vashi, that speech this morning by the Prime Minister was pretty interesting, more than pretty interesting. It was so direct. You know, in it, he condemned Donald Trump without naming him. He said a lot of things that people are talking about. What specifically jumped out at you?
Well, Sandy, it felt like one of the, if not the most significant speech the Prime Minister has delivered since he assumed office. And maybe one of the most significant speeches we've heard from a world leader since Donald Trump assumed office. I think collectively in the aggregate, we've all been wondering, like, how do we grapple with what has so obviously changed since Trump became president the second time around? And we have been looking for a way to enunciate it, to characterize it. That is what the Prime Minister did with this speech. And I think it helps provide a framework moving forward for whatever foreign policy his government ends up pursuing. What that means in the bigger picture for other countries, for Trump, for the relationship, well, that's another question.
Interesting that there was no mention of the North American Free Trade Agreement, CUSMA. So you have to wonder, based on everything the Prime Minister said today, what happens the next time Donald Trump and Mark Carney are in the same room together, and that could very well happen tomorrow. Your thoughts?
Very much so. It's one thing to rhetorically eulogize the world we thought we lived in. It's another thing to meet the reality of a country like ours, which is so wholly still dependent on the United States as its primary customer. And that is the reality the Prime Minister will have to face, despite the speeches, despite the crowd at Davos, if he does end up meeting President Trump. And it's the reality this country faces heading into this review of CUSMA this year, Sandy.
All right, CTV's Vashi Capellas. Thank you, Vashi. No wavering from the U.S. president on Greenland, as Donald Trump also marked the one-year anniversary of his second term in office. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbon now on Donald Trump's obsession with the island and his social media messages. Hi, Joy.
Hi, Sandy. Well, Donald Trump has turned Davos into a crisis even before he arrives. He's playing hardball with NATO allies over his desire to control Greenland for national security. And on the anniversary of his first term in office, his second term actually, the president went through a list of greatest hits and grievances. Marking his first year of his second term.
It's big stuff, too. Look, we have the hottest country in the world.
The U.S. president giving his own assessment, flashing mugshots of immigration arrests.
They're murderers, they're drug lords, drug dealers.
From his hardline crackdown in U.S. cities on undocumented immigrants, admitting he felt badly about the ICE shooting death of Renee Good.
I felt horribly when I was told that the young woman who was had the tragedy.
The president touting his capture of Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro, bombing Iran's nuclear facilities. 1 year later, though, it's a battle of narratives. Domestically, Americans are struggling. Donald Trump promised to tackle high prices. Polls give him failing marks on that, and voters disapprove of his foreign adventures.
Well, I don't think they're going to push back too much. Look, we have to have it. They have to have this done. They can't protect it. Denmark.
On his way to Davos, Trump is digging in, refusing to back down on Greenland, part of Denmark and a NATO ally. Even though a treaty allows the U.S. to expand its military presence there, Trump wants to own it. Posting an image of him planting a U.S. flag on Greenland, claiming it as U.S. territory. And threatening tariffs on 8 NATO allies that don't go along with his plan, a fracture in the NATO alliance. The French president labeled it as a world without rules.
We need more stability in this world, but we do prefer respect to bullies.
The European Parliament now threatening to suspend its trade deal with America. The president said he is still committed to NATO, but had a lot of complaints about the alliance. And when asked again how far would President Donald Trump go to acquire Greenland, his answer to the reporter, you'll find out. Sandy?
Joy, thank you. A lot of chatter today over an image that Donald Trump shared early this morning on Truth Social, which shows Canada and Greenland draped in the American flag. CTV senior political correspondent Mike Locatour is looking into reaction here in Canada to yet another inflammatory provocation. Mike.
Well, Sandy, it's been a while since U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to make Canada the 51st state. And at least one former Canadian politician says it's time for the Prime Minister to put his foot down.
The original photo came from an August meeting between President Donald Trump and European leaders. It shows them in the Oval Office with a map of Ukraine and Russia in the background. A newly doctored version posted by Trump shows a different type of expansionism. The new map shows the stars and stripes painted over Greenland, Venezuela, and Canada.
He wants to be in control. He wants to manage. He wants to run the hemisphere and be a dictator.
Former Foreign Affairs Minister Lloyd Axworthy believes Canada needs to push back.
I think it's about time we showed a little sort of what the hell is going on, Mr. Trump? Would you stop this nonsense? Because If he's not confronted, then he will feel emboldened to go ahead.
Now, the Globe and Mail is reporting hypothetical responses to a U.S. military invasion are being modeled by the Canadian Armed Forces. However, the Foreign Affairs Minister would only speak broadly about national defense.
To always ensure that the defense and protection of our country is first and foremost on top of our list of priorities.
CTV News requested a comment from the Canadian Armed Forces, but we did not get one. Now, Trump has mused about taking over Canada for more than a year, but one of his former advisors downplayed the seriousness of that particular post.
But just in an interview that he did a few hours ago, he didn't say anything about the United States taking over Canada, and in fact referred to Canada's interest also in the Arctic. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that from the Canadian perspective.
Kellyanne Shaw says Trump is having a little fun with that post. But for many in Canada, it's serious. Sandy?
All right, Mike in Ottawa. Thank you, Mike. Serious also is how the U.S. financial markets are interpreting this talk of taking over Greenland and the tariff threats. In Canada, the response is not quite as impactful, in part because of gold. CTV's John Venevali-Rao breaks down the market reaction and implications for investing in metals. Hi, John.
Sandy, we're at a gold and silver dealer where even the experts here are surprised at how high those precious metals have climbed.
So this is the 1 ounce gold Canadian maple leaf.
Justin Yampolsky showed us a typical 1 ounce gold coin that just today shot up in value more than $100, with Donald Trump's threats adding to gold's shine in a huge way.
It is really showing how economically uncertain the entire world is. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Everybody is kind of hedging their bets, and everybody just wants security, however they can find it.
Precious metals are seen as a safe haven in times of turmoil, and Trump creating plenty of that, with gold surging past $4,700 an ounce for the first time ever.
We've reached numbers a lot quicker than I would have expected.
After a stunning 66% rise last year, gold is already up more than 9% in the month of January. In part, central banks have been buying it as countries pivot away from the U.S. dollar.
Stocks are still sharply lower, but they're off the worst level.
And today, investors were selling U.S. stocks, markets down sharply, what some called the Sell America trade. While Toronto's main index fared better, in part because gold mining stocks were on the rise. Canada is the fourth largest gold producer in the world, behind China, Russia, and Australia. In northern Ontario, the Madsen gold mine started up operations again just last year under new ownership. It was closed for decades when the price of gold was low and now employs 280 people.
It's a very exciting time for Canadian gold miners, for sure. I mean, it's fun to be mining gold when a gold bull market is on.
A gold boom that's driving more investment in Canadian mines and boosting the value of Canadian exports. As for gold's strong run, several bank analysts believe an ounce of gold could hit $5,000 U.S., or about 7,000 Canadian, by the end of the year.
Wow.
Sandy.
All right, John, thank you. Well, former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and girlfriend Katy Perry made an appearance at the World Economic Forum.
It would be a mistake, as was highlighted by this report, the speeches we just heard, to underestimate the idea of soft power. The idea of investing in people.
With Perry watching from the front row, Trudeau spoke about using people to address today's global challenges. He says he was inspired by Canadians pulling together in the face of sovereignty threats and rejected the notion that Donald Trump could make Canada the 51st state. Now, Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne, also in Davos, says Canada won't be paying President Trump's $1 billion price tag to join the proposed Board of Peace.
With respect to the Board of Peace, I think you've heard the Prime Minister as well of his intention of joining. There's a lot of details to be worked out, but one thing which is clear is that Canada is not going to pay if we were to join.
Multiple countries have been invited to join, including Russia's Vladimir Putin. The board's charter says the organization is meant to promote stability, restore lawful governance, and secure enduring peace in places like Gaza and beyond. Trump says the board is necessary because of his dissatisfaction with the United Nations. Now, Mark Carney's speech to world leaders in Davos today is being described as consequential and historical. If you want to listen to it in its entirety, go to ctvnews.ca. The father of a BC teenager who was found dead in Australia delivered a heartbreaking tribute today. Todd Janes posted, "Our hearts are shattered as we share the tragic loss of our beautiful daughter, Piper. We will always remember her infectious laugh and her kind spirit. I admired her strength and determination to go after her dreams." Piper James was 19 years old. Her family, based in Campbell River, BC, tells CTV News she'd been backpacking through Australia with a close friend. She'd reportedly been working in the area where she was found in Queensland. Police say her body was discovered at a beach surrounded by wild dogs.
At this stage, it's too early to speculate on cause of death. We simply can't confirm whether this young lady drowned or died as a result of being attacked by dingoes.
Police say it appears she went for an early morning swim. Coming up, the not-so-golden years.
If you're left on your own, what's there for you?
A gloomy snapshot of growing old and what could turn that around. Alberta's opposition leaders urging Conservative Premier Danielle Smith to bring the legislature back 5 weeks early, citing a growing crisis in the province's hospitals.
This is not normal. This is not just, it's a bad flu season. This is an unprecedented crisis in our emergency rooms and our ambulance services, symptomatic of a system that is broken down.
Naheed Nenshi says the province needs to declare a state of emergency, pointing to overcrowding, long wait times, and staff shortages. Alberta's hospitals minister says the declaration isn't needed because the province is already working on the capacity issues. A new report on aging paints a very sad picture of the challenges facing the elderly. Widespread loneliness, social isolation, and declining optimism about getting old. With Bell Let's Talk Day tomorrow, the company that owns CTV, we've turned our attention to mental health issues and how to support seniors who are struggling. CTV's Maria Saru is in PEI. Okay, Maria, tell us where you are and what you've learned.
Sandy, I'm outside the Seniors Active Living Center here in Charlottetown, and this is where some islanders come to socialize and play games. That kind of connection can get harder with age, which is why places like this can make a big difference.
Cards slide and flip face down before the next hand of bridge hits the table. It's a familiar game for these folks, played with familiar faces. And for some seniors, it's a chance to mingle and make new friends.
If you're left on your own, what's there for you?
David Blackiere mans this front desk one day a week, taking off members' names as they arrive.
Bill's in.
It's part of how he stays connected to his community here at the Seniors Active Living Center. The National Institute on Aging surveyed thousands of people 50 plus and found optimism about getting older fell from 62% in 2024 to 57% in 2025. Another 57% also reported experiencing loneliness, with 43% at risk of social isolation.
Social isolation is akin to the kind of outcomes we see with chronic disease. So it can really reduce somebody's ability to live a healthy, independent life.
The biggest barriers differ depending on the age group.
For the 50 to 64-year-olds, affordability was definitely the number one. For the older cohort of older adults, the 80 plus, the number one barrier was around health limitations.
That's why both affordability and accessibility mattered. And Blackiere says a low-cost membership for the center helps.
We're providing something here that is very healthy for them. I've heard 90-year-olds and well into the 90-year-olds saying, oh my gosh, Dave, if we didn't have this, what would we do?
Experts say community-based seniors organizations like this center need more investment, with many relying on unsteady funding and volunteer support. Sandy.
Maria in Charlottetown. Thanks, Maria. A town in Newfoundland is facing an environmental emergency after high winds left an abandoned fish plant with organic waste on the brink of collapse. The destruction left more than 100 containers of rotting fish sauce open to the elements. The mayor of St. Mary's is calling on federal support to safely dispose of the sauce. And the gloves and trappers were off last night in Florida for a rare on-ice spectacle, an old-fashioned goalie throwdown.
And here comes Bobrovsky all the way down the ice. And Bobrovsky's got the gloves on, and he's going after the Delkovich. We've got a goalie fight.
After a scrum behind San Jose's net, Florida's goalie charged the length of the ice to square up with the Sharks' netminder. It was the league's first goalie fight since 2020. Each goalkeeper received a 5-minute major penalty, an additional 2 minutes for leaving their post, but a standing ovation from the crowd. After the break, a stunning sight for sky gazers. The beauty brought on by the strongest solar storm in decades. Most Canadians were treated to a dazzling display of pink and green and yellow as the Northern Lights danced across the night sky, stretching as far as the southern United States. Now, it's being called the largest radiation solar storm in more than 20 years. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth reports.
Hilda Vanden Heuvel never imagined waking up to such a stunning sight.
I could see the rays in the sky, and so I knew they were there. And I took a quick check before I got dressed.
A retired photographer, she never misses an opportunity to capture pictures of the Northern Lights and post them on social media.
I just get so excited when the Northern Lights are out. It's a hobby, and it's a lot of fun.
Astronomers say the Northern Lights lit up the sky with a palette of sparkling colors, beginning late Monday night, lasting until early Tuesday morning.
For so many people across Canada and the United States, they had an extremely intense display of red, green, northern lights.
The Northern Lights happen when charged particles are released from the sun and enter the atmosphere. The scientific community has ranked this latest solar storm as the most intense aurora event in more than 20 years.
The way that it interacted with our magnetic field sort of waned and increased and decreased again over the course of the night.
According to Tiffany Fields, we are not getting more Northern Lights displays than in the past. Scientific technology has come a long way, giving experts the ability to predict when the Northern Lights are going to happen so more people can see them.
And it allows us to just look up into the sky and wonder what is happening.
And participate in a shared experience, watching the nighttime sky dance with vivid colors. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
Beautiful, right? Thank you for sharing your Tuesday with us. I'm Sandra Rinaldo. Bye for now. We'll see you tomorrow, we hope. Have a nice evening. Take care.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast.